All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is GFan84, and with me is...
Orange Hat Reviews.
And today we're going to be talking about lightly touching on actual ancient Greece and like its history, but mostly it's going to be about mythology. I just figure if we're going to talk about mythology, we need to talk about the context of like ancient Greece itself, like the actual history. So what I was talking to Orange Hat here about was, you have Greece, but they were divided. It was divided into city states. You had Athens, Sparta, you had Thebes, and these city states they all worshiped the same gods. They were all of Greek speaking peoples, but they actually developed very different ways of doing things, how they ran their society, how they treated their citizens, what was expected of the citizens in return, that sort of thing. So the reason why these city states were kind of diverse mainly was because geography. Sparta, if you look at Sparta, it's actually in a valley and it's surrounded by mountains. It was pretty well fortified naturally. You have Athens, which was on these the steps of these steep hills, and it was pretty close to the sea, not too far from the sea. You had different ways of doing it geography wise. You had very different natural barriers, but this is why many of the Greek speaking people developed very different ideas, very different ways of doing things from each other. And probably the most notable difference, the two city states that were the most different were Sparta and Athens, and they were always considered the two most powerful city states of ancient Greece.
And they hated each other with a passion.
Oh yeah, they had completely different ideas of how to run things.
Athens was more philosophy based, where Sparta was more war based.
Yeah, well, not just that, but like if you look at the deep rooted ideas too, you have to understand that for Sparta, especially, they essentially had to get to Sparta itself. Like I said, you had to climb all these mountains. You had to go pretty much through hell and back to just get to the area they were in. And so this area that they were in was very fertile. But what they did was once, yeah, and then you go through Thermopylae, but still, even then, like that wasn't really discovered really until Sparta was established. I'm talking about early, this Mayan, civilizations, and they're completely different mentality there too. Fun fact, we a lot of times talk about like modern issues and how we can translate them and stuff like that. But for I will have to say what's kind of interesting for Sparta being quote unquote, as many people in today's society would say, toxic masculinity. As much as that was, did you actually know the Spartan women had more power than other Greek city states?
Oh yeah,
Sparta.
I learned a lot from simply watching the special features of 300, where they actually went over historical things of Sparta, the real history of Sparta.
Yes. Also, actually, Orange, it's on YouTube. If you ever get a chance to watch it, there's these documentaries of ancient Greece hosted by Bethany Hughes. They're from like the 90s, but they're excellent. If you get to the chance, they're on YouTube for free.
I'll check them out if I can.
Yeah, she's a very good narrator, and she like knows a lot about ancient Greece. But essentially what happens is, because of Sparta being so warlike and the men constantly off to battle, it was up to the women to run the day-to-day operations, managing, and so on and so forth. But it actually went deeper beyond that. Women were allowed to vote. They were allowed to own property. They were also allowed to speak amongst men, which is a famous line in 300, but where she says, only Spartan women give birth to real men. That was actually a quote from a Spartan woman talking to an Athenian woman. So in real life, because again, it was argued, too, Spartan women were also some of the most beautiful women in all of Greece. There's been much written about the fact that Athenian men always, whenever they saw a Spartan woman, they couldn't stop looking at them, because Spartan women also went to the gym. They worked out. They were just as competitive as men were.
They had to go through the agoge as well.
Yes, exactly. And it was from other women who would beat them senseless, constantly. So they had to get better at, defending themselves. Another thing too that was interesting too, when it came to marriage, Spartan women were allowed to choose their own husband. So usually in ancient Greece, this would be arranged by their parents or something like that. No, they were allowed to choose who they wanted to choose. So, again, you kind of have to look, really dig deep into the cultures and stuff like that to really see the bigger picture. Now, that being said, we had just talked about, Athens, the heart of, philosophy, democracy, art, math, history, that kind of thing.
They were also more sexually diverse as well.
Yes. Very.
Gerard Butler actually, a lot of people think that was an ad lib. It's actually very accurate to what Athens was. They did allow gay relationships there.
Yes. And another thing too that's interesting, though, with Athens is, again, you have all these ideas, these types of philosophies, and education, mathematics, that sort of thing. But the only issue that Athens had is, like many other major cities of today, very overcrowded, very very much started to deteriorate a lot faster than other parts of Greece. When you got to the Peloponnesian Wars, which was the war between Sparta and Athens, the problem that happened with Athens is, so they had this idea. Athens walled in itself, literally put a wall around the city, and then put walls, as a direct line to the sea, so they could get, their supplies through the sea. And good idea and concept. Completely walled, nothing can get in. The Spartans tried, and they couldn't breach the walls. But then what happened was, plague happened. They had traced it to tainted grain that was getting shipped in, and the Athenian population, including Pericles, who was the leader of Athens, perished because of the plague. And the Spartans actually were spared it, ironically, because the wall was, keeping the plague in. And so essentially Athens fell to plague. It wasn't the Spartans that actually were able to breach the wall. It was their own, doing.
I was actually going to say, it's they built that wall up to keep the Spartans up, but what they ended up doing was turning their city into a giant death bowl.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And, eventually Athens did surrender to Sparta, but Sparta's biggest problem was they didn't have the population to maintain a quote unquote empire, essentially.
Yeah.
So eventually, even though they had occupied Athens, eventually Athens was, essentially liberated only because of population wise. The Spartans then retreated back to Sparta. But again, here's the funny thing. If you really look at classical ancient Greece, they couldn't go more than 10 years without a war of some sorts breaking out. You couldn't go more than a decade, whether that be invasion from Persians or fighting within them amongst themselves. They just couldn't get away from it. Not only that, but then soon after the Peloponnesian Wars, then up in Macedonia, which is up north from Greece, rose Philip, Philip then conquered slash united all of Greece, and then after Philip died, came Alexander the Great, and then the rest is history. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it really after the death of Alexander the Great is where many people argue that classical ancient Greece kind of ends, because then later the Roman Empire takes over, and then it becomes ancient Rome. So
yeah. Now we should point out to our viewers, because I will actually draw some comparisons to 300. 300 is by no way 100% accurate.
Oh, no, of course not.
The Battle of Thermopylae did last 3 days.
Yes.
It just didn't have a lot of giants and all that other stuff that they showed in the movie.
No, they look cool.
And also, yeah, they looked cool. It was purely, it was Zack Snyder purely doing a visual spectacle. But he did get the core of the story correct.
Yeah,
yes, there was other characters that were not the same. I believe Gorgo was Gorgo actually married to Leonidas?
Yeah, she was, but also, mind you, Leonidas in real life was actually in her 60s.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Spartans, they lived well into their, or if they lived well, or if they didn't die in battle, even though they got older, they could still fight.
Oh yeah.
Their last line of defense was their women.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that they freely go through, or there's one shot in 300,
right,
where Gorgo is walking through Sparta to meet with the politician that I called Abe Lincoln, because he kind of looked like Abe Lincoln.
Yes, he did look like Abe Lincoln.
But she's also allowing her son gets ahead of her, and she loses sight of him, and she immediately looks to one of the citizens, and the citizen points him out. He's like, he went that way. That is the wonderful thing about Sparta. Sparta is actually one of the most modern modern cities of that time.
Yes,
Athens had, or was more culturally diverse and progressive, but Sparta was, even though they were more war-based, even though they couldn't go without a good war every now and then, they were still a very prosperous nation. I mean, if a lot of people ask who would win between a Navy SEAL and a Spartan, it's like, Spartan.
Well, essentially, Spartan warriors were the Navy SEALs of their time.
Yeah, they were basically, and it's like, you guys don't get it. These kids are trained from freaking infancy. Yeah. I mean, when they're old enough to walk, they're getting the shit kicked out of them by their own parents.
Yep.
And they were bred perfectly, meaning if there was that whole thing in the beginning, if there was any sickness or deformity, they were discarded. They were killed. As barbaric as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was to ensure the purity of their way and of their lines.
Yeah. Well, one thing also to add was the fact that it was really well written in Sparta that being a citizen was a privilege, quite literally. And that's the one thing that they did Spartans really did pride themselves on, is they were proud to be called Spartans. Because this is the problem. This is a problem with Sparta, was they did not allow outsiders to join the ranks. Now they could still have a job, but they could never become a citizen. It's pretty much, you're here, but you're pretty much under a work visa kind of thing.
They really frowned upon immigration.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. More so than that. Yeah.
Because the thing is, they didn't like people coming in to mingle with them too much, because they were afraid of outside influence.
Oh yeah.
Hence how the Persians actually got into their city ranks at one time.
Yeah.
Because yes, that was actually something that they did get right in 300. The Persians did get in there to influence a few senators here and there.
Right.
And it was one of the reasons why Leonidas was not allowed to go to war. And he chose to do it himself with 300 bodyguards.
Yes. Because he also knew that, his death would rally the rest of Sparta. Well, not just Sparta,
just rally the rest of Sparta, but the rest of Greece. They knew that if the greatest warrior of Sparta was to fall and to be assassinated, Persia would fall. And he's like, bring it.
Mm-hmm.
He went right up to him, the Milan Labe.
Oh yeah.
Show me what you got. And by the way, you kill me, you're gonna die within a year, maybe 10.
Yep.
If you're lucky.
Well, the Athenians then defeated the Persians with their navy, and then but the Spartans were the ones. And the Spartans on the ground just decimated them. Even this is even after 300. The events that happened after. Because that was another thing.
Battle of Plataea.
Yep. Yeah.
That was one of the more definitive. That was one of the more definitive, because 40,000 Greeks with like 10,000 Spartans is like 10,000 Spartans is like one Spartan for maybe 50 to 100 Persians.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're not winning that. You're really not. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like with the Persian, military that Xerxes had, many of them were conscripts. They were like regular farmers and stuff like that, just being drafted to war. Now they're facing, the Spartans, who their whole life is war. So it's like, it's complete.
Spartans, what's your profession?
Yeah. But also, that was actually true in 300. There was just Spartans. There were other Greeks there, Arcadians, and a few others. But that is true. When they found out that they were betrayed and that the goat path was found, Leonidas told the rest of the Greeks, the non-Spartans, to get out of here. It's like, no, this is our glory. Literally, that's how he put it. This is our glory.
Yep. And
yeah.
It's like, we're about to die, boys. You guys go away. Piss off. This is our fight. This is our glory. We're going to make this something that people will read on for thousands of years. And thousands of years later. Yeah.
It's not just amazing, though, that like we can still talk about today. And it's 1,000-year-old, like more than thousands, a couple 1,000-year-old.
This is BC
story.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This is way BC. And it's like, stuff like that, like quite literally, they achieve their goal, which was to be known throughout the world. And, well, here's the other funny thing. If you actually go to Thermopylae today, I don't have a map with me, but if you go to Thermopylae today, the waters actually are receded.
Yep.
So it would have been, it would have been like, right now it's actually doesn't look nearly like how it did back then because the waters had receded. But that little path that the Persians kept trying to get through, it was either that little path, which the Spartans had blocked, or the ocean. So, but now if you look at it, it looks very different. And so it's kind of hard to imagine if you look at it now, it's like, why didn't they just walk over this way? It's like, because that was actually water.
Yeah, that was underwater.
Yeah,
that was actually. It's like, let's take a journey thousands of years ago. Oh, by the way, that spot that you're saying, why didn't they just go there? Well, they would have had to swim.
Yeah.
And I hope they had gills, because I also hope they had a lot of armor. The rocks were sharp.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah, pretty
mention
much.
anything that was in the water that was a predator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, just yeah, and the fact that like that's the other thing the Athenians learned was the Persians weren't very good sailors. So that's one thing the Athenians did learn pretty quickly. And when they built the triremes, which is essentially a oar-guided missile, quite literally, of the time. Yeah, and they would literally carve ships in half.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, that's the other thing that I'm very impressed with. For this happening so many thousands of years ago, the inventiveness of ancient Greece is like just something to marvel at,
It
really.
wasn't just ancient Greece. I mean, here's the thing. If you're looking at any structure that came before Christ, pyramids,
Right.
structures like from the original Greece and Sparta and whatnot,
Yeah.
you're talking about things that people couldn't build today. They
Yeah.
literally tried
Well,
building a pyramid with super cranes. Couldn't do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
It's like, they're like, so how'd they do it? A lot of slaves.
Yeah, a lot of slaves
Or
and
hundreds of years.
Yeah. Not just that, but like what I'm always shocked about is again, we're going a bit more into history. We'll get to the mythologies here in a bit. But one of the things I'm amazed about is when the Roman Catholic Church took over, they went on a complete spree of destroying as much of antiquities artifacts as they could, and they still couldn't destroy them all. I mean, that shows how insanely durable a lot of these things were.
Yep. They also
Amazing.
like to steal and damnate a lot of the older mythologies and religions as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, they took Poseidon's trident and made it an item of the darkest evil.
Yeah. Yep.
They took freaking satyr, freaking forest god, and basically made him the vision or the visage of Satan.
Yep.
There are so many parallels between Roman Catholicism and Greek myth.
Oh yeah, I know.
Seven circles of hell. There are seven circles of hell. Well, did you know that the river Styx runs around Hades 7 times?
Also, Cerberus is in both Roman Catholic ideology and mythology.
Yep. The many-headed dog of serpents.
Yep. So, yeah. Fun fact, I actually learned, I had a mythology class in Catholic school. So, yeah. Kind of ironic that they were teaching it, but I love that class. And I could tell the teacher had a real passion for mythology. So, and yeah, trust me, she would talk about the parallels. And I don't know how much of a Catholic she was, but I could tell she was trying to hint. Mind you, we were only like, in 9th grade and stuff like that. But you could tell it was like kind of like hint. But anyway, it's kind of. But going back to like now, the myths that they actually came about. Let's talk real quick about the actual the war, what started the Olympian gods, which is the war between Titans and the gods. So, of course, we both of us know the story about Kronos, about the Titans.
You'd actually have to, you'd have to go.
Well, even
before the
that.
Great War, there was 2 Titans.
Yeah, Gaia,
Gaia and Oranos. Or as many people love to call him, Uranus. Laugh it up, folks. But his original pronunciation was Oranos.
Yeah.
He was the father of creation, literally. He was basically God.
Yep.
And out of him, he gave birth to Gaia. And then wedded Gaia.
Yep.
kind of a weird Adam and Eve vibe.
There's a lot of incest in there.
Soul Assassin, good to see you.
Yeah.
It's all Greek to me. But
Yeah. That really is a term.
Greek myth. Getting into Greek myth, this cannot be avoided. This really can't be avoided. To go into the Greek myth is to go into a world that was rich in incest. Pretty much every god is related to each other in one way or another.
Right, exactly. But think about it this way. There was, even in real life, there was an old aristocratic term that was used a lot. And it was, nobody is good enough for our family but our family. So think about that.
There's
kings and queens married their cousins.
Years.
Yeah. Why do you think kings and queens married their cousins? They didn't want outside.
Yeah, it's called keeping a pure line.
Yep.
It's actually quite Game of Thrones rich as well, because Game of Thrones touched on it as well. Funny thing is, Lena Headey is in both Game of Thrones and 300.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love her character in 300. I hate her character in Game of Thrones.
Well, she's a very good actress.
Oh, she is, absolutely.
Yeah. She can make you hate, if she can make you hate somebody that much, she's good.
Yeah. It's like, gosh, woman, I would just love to slit your throat right now. But in 300, I would love to do anything but.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so getting back to creation in the terms of ancient Greece, so in mythology. So you had Gaia, then you had Uranus.
I'm sorry, it's like I could not freaking help that.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Oh my
God. All right, go ahead and take over. I can't.
So wait, where were we?
Well, we were getting to where she gave birth to the Titans.
To the Titans, yes. And so the big three Titans that came out were Kronos, Oceanus, I believe, and Gaia, Oceanus, and Kronos were the big three Titans after Ouranos. Kronos was not really an elemental Titan, but he was the one that commanded most of the Earth while Gaia oversaw the Earth.
Yes.
And then he gave birth to his sons through, I can't remember, was Rhea a goddess or a Titan?
See, I remember reading she was a Titan, but then there's other
interpretations that she was a goddess.
Yeah.
And then there's even shit that she was a mortal, and it's like,
not yet. That didn't happen yet.
Yeah. And it's like, the God of War game, the first one, not the Norse one, but the original God of War game.
Yes, the original God of War, yeah.
Where they show the story of Zeus eating it, or not Zeus, but Kronos eating his kids. It's like, you see Rhea down there, and you see Kronos coming. It's like, how did it fit?
Well, mind you, they could shapeshift.
Yes, I know, but it's like, oh my god, how did it fit?
Yeah,
but anyway,
they shapeshift.
Yes. So Kronos gave birth to Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. And after Zeus was spared because of Rhea's compassion,
right?
Zeus decided to rescue his sons. And then the great battle, was fought. The great battle between Titans and gods. But even before that, before Kronos even was ruling the Titans, he had to take out his own father, which he cut into millions of pieces.
Yes, with a sickle.
With his own scythe or sickle. And funny thing, later on, we'll actually delve into the stuff that I created, because I'm actually creating my own interpretation of Greek myth. But he actually did that, and then the Great War happened, where the gods overthrew their progenitors, the Titans. Even freaking Aphrodite fought in this war.
Right.
And I'm not talking about all the major gods. I'm talking about the gods that barely anybody freaking knew about. Aeolus or Aeolus, and many other ones that that were considered less than Olympian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And these gods, if it wasn't for the lesser ones, the Olympians wouldn't have won. But the Olympians were also the more powerful, but they still couldn't stand against the Titans by themselves. So they needed all of the children of Titans.
Yes.
And yes, even a couple Titans actually fought on the side of the gods, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they did.
And for that, they actually got lesser punishments.
Yeah. Yeah, because, okay, according to what happened was, so the war was going on forever and ever. So Zeus went to Gaia and asked for counsel, saying, this is lasting forever. We can't keep this up. And that's where she said, you have to free the other children of the Titans, which are like the Cyclops, the 100-handed giants. These guys, they were imprisoned by Kronos because not only did he fear their power, but they were grotesque. So
they were not instruments of perfection.
Exactly. And so because of that, because Zeus freed them, they aligned with the Olympian gods, and that's the edge they needed. It was actually, like you said, the lesser gods, the lesser immortals, essentially.
The creatures, the monsters, and the grotesques.
Yes, exactly.
Now, not to be compared to the high monsters, which are like freaking Scylla, or not Scylla, but goddamn,
Typhon?
what was her? No, his wife.
Oh,
because Typhon was, or Typhon was.
Methuselah? Is it Methuselah?
No.
Geez, there's a bunch. Yeah.
I think.
Echidna. Okay, all right, I got you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was the one that she was the mother of monsters, where Typhon was the father of monsters, and Zeus wouldn't. He's like, no, or we'll ask them for their help, or he actually did, or I believe Typhon actually did take place, or did fight in the Great War, but Zeus turned on him really freaking quick because he knew that he would not be able to rein in Typhon.
Well, actually, Typhon, Typhon kidnapped Zeus. He pulled out his tendons in his arms and legs so he couldn't move, and then kidnapped him. And it took the other Olympian gods to revive Zeus and then fight him off.
Yeah, Typhon is not. Put it this way, folks. Look at Earth from orbit. Typhon reached high orbit. That was his size.
Yeah.
He was that big. All those lovely books like Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and any other real on-screen or anything interpretation of Typhon is extremely small.
Yeah.
Zeus could not handle Typhon alone until the final battle that he had with Typhon that ended up putting him under Vesuvius.
Yeah, literally. They had to take a mountain.
They dropped a mountain on him.
Dropped it on him, literally.
It's like, hey, Typhon, look up. Huh? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
It's like Looney Tunes type thing.
Yeah.
And all right. So, go ahead.
But Typhon, while they were trying to think of a plan to stop him, a lot of people think that Typhon was just a reign of terror. It's like, Typhon literally took like 100 years to have sex with Echidna. I mean, she was pumping out babies like the Nemean lion, the harpies, the frickin' Scylla and Charybdis.
Yep.
He made sure that his legacy would live on.
Yep.
And then they dropped the mountain on him, and it's like, yeah, we're cock blocking you.
Yep.
Yes, we're not. This content is not for children, as this thing says, folks. So I'm milking it.
No, but here's the thing. When you talk about Greek mythology, and when you talk about, not just the gods, but about the heroes and stuff like that, none of this content, the original ideas, none of this content was actually to scare small children so that they would do the right thing.
Oh yeah, it was definitely used to get kids to behave.
Yeah, because quite literally, the reason why you prayed for the gods, even though the gods were cruel, was because if the Titans ever came back, they'd do even more cruel things to humanity. That was the argument.
That was the argument indeed.
Quite literally. So it's like, yeah, even though, and another thing you'll find out as we talk about the Olympian gods, they are extremely vain. They are extremely jealous of each other. If they're not fighting a common enemy, they're fighting each other, and they're literally manipulating mortals left, right, and center to do their bidding. Yeah. And then Zeus, well, he can't keep it in his pants, so why he's married is beyond me.
Why Hera puts up with his ass is beyond me.
Yeah, but ever notice, like, instead of going out, she doesn't really challenge Zeus that much. She instead, all her anger goes toward these, bastard children. That's where her anger goes. Look at poor Heracles. And by the way, we're using the Greek pronunciation. It's Heracles, not Hercules is the Roman translation. I
always thought that was the other way around. Roman was Heracles.
Heracles is the original Greek because it's with a K. They didn't use C.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, they didn't use C, they used K. So hence Heracles with a K. But yeah.
I will never look at the word cock again the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, but no, essentially what you'll find out is, the Greek gods and goddesses are just they're miserable people. Well, immortals, I should say. Ironically,
and they're like, oh God, look at these insects. They're idiots.
Yeah. Yep.
Throw them a plague.
Essentially, flood them. Whatever.
Oh, now they're praying to us. Holy crap!
Yeah,
we should do this more often. Throw them another plague.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now here's the ironic thing. For as much as we in movies and television, as much as they portray Hades as this evil person, actually, ironically, in the mythology, Hades is actually one of the more moral of the gods. He actually, for the most part, leaves people alone. And
he was he was actually a lot more benevolent.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually taught humans how to respect the dead. Also, the way the underworld was treated was, as long as you were a good person, Cerberus would welcome you with wagging his tail like a puppy. Hades would just escort you to Elysium. So it wasn't as gloom doom as what they make it in a lot of movies and stuff like that. He was actually one of the nicer gods, put it that way. Yeah, I mean, compared to
because others, he's the god of death. A lot of people now, let's be fair, folks. Hades has done some heinous shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look what he did to Persephone, because he wanted Persephone.
Yeah.
He just didn't realize that Demeter was a package deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks, if you ever want to see a relationship where you can't escape your mother-in-law, look to Hades and Persephone, because Demeter freaking made Hades' life miserable. Yeah,
hence the seasons.
Yes.
Yes.
That is exactly right. I mean, it's like, well, you suckered my daughter to stay down here with that freaking pomegranate, you bitch. Now you're getting mommy as well.
Yeah.
Zeus, what have you done?
Yeah,
But yeah,
don't you love?
Demeter
Yeah,
is or a lot of people actually forget that Demeter is an actual goddess and
right.
not a boat
Yeah,
or a ship. Yeah,
yeah,
folks, if you ever read Bram Stoker's Dracula, Demeter came from Greek mythology.
exactly.
I mean, you'd be surprised on how much stuff comes from Greek mythology. Look at those lovely houses with those pillar things.
Yep,
Greek.
yep,
Eagles, Greek. um, cows, also Greek.
yep.
Bulls, Greek.
Hmm.
Horses, Greek. It's all
Actually,
Greek. It almost has a sense.
if you look at the English language, you can actually trace it to the Greek origin. A lot of the. Yep. Actually,
Yeah.
okay. Well, give you a more modern example because I'm a big fan. You're a big fan. Look at Godzilla King of Monsters, the new one. There's a lot of references to Greek.
Typhon.
Yep.
Yep. By the
I mean,
way, folks, the Kraken is not Greek
that's
mythology.
Norse. That's Norse. Yeah.
That is
Stupid
Norse.
Clash of the
So
Titans, man.
Wrath of the Titans, or not Wrath, but Clash of the Titans, they
Uh,
got it wrong. You
yeah.
see, here's the thing, folks. To give you a little bit of a Greek history, shall we say,
Yeah.
it wasn't even Argos that was invaded. I believe it was the same king and queen, but it wasn't Argos. And they did have to sacrifice Andromeda. I just can't remember the name of the place. Now, here's the thing. They didn't ask Perseus to do shit. When Andromeda was being sacrificed, it was to a creature called the Cetus, which means whale, which is actually what our whales are derived from. But it was a beast. It looked nothing like a whale, the original Cetus. Now, it was going to eat Andromeda. She was tied to a cliff, and Perseus, riding back on his Pegasus, after he had just slayed Medusa, is like, what the hell is this? Okay, creature, look at this. And well, the rest of it, or we all know how that handled. Turned to stone, shattered. And, well, the gods were a little pissed off, but Zeus is like, oh, shit, that's my own kid. I can't. There was a lot of stuff that happened. It wasn't Hades. It wasn't him that sent the monster. It was actually Poseidon. So Clash of the Titans, while impressive to watch, wildly inaccurate.
Yeah, actually,
The Aegean Sea is the Greek origin. Yes.
yes.
The Aegean. Or the Aegean. Or the Aegean. Or the Aegean. However you choose to pronounce it. I choose to pronounce it Aegean!
Yeah, pretty much. And you have to understand, that's like when it comes to Greek mythology and when it comes to movies, they kind of have to dumb it down because trying to explain to the general audience some of these myths is a bit much. It really would not fly in a Hollywood movie. I'll put it that way.
1 second, I gotta go for a second.
Oh, go ahead. But yeah, I always call it a GNC. Yeah, Hades got screwed over in a game of straws. Well, sort of. Actually, the actual myth is they essentially agreed, even though they did draw straws. I mean, they essentially agreed to it. It's not like they had some big power struggle.
Yeah, you're talking about the splitting of power.
Yeah.
Hades got screwed over in a game of straws. Yeah. It was well, not straws, so to speak. It was lots, basically. It's like
they drew lots.
Yeah. It's like,
like I said,
you get the ocean, you get the sky. Okay, do I get the earth? No, you get hell.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much she got put in.
You get the underworld. Oh, hell. Good name for it.
Pretty much. But so here, like I was saying though, like it's if you want to be accurate with the mythologies, it's very hard to do with a movie with the general audience because you'd have to go into a lot of stuff. I'll put it that way. That I guarantee you would not pass the censors.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to be truthful. So
I mean, if they were to try to make anything 100% accurate to the myth, might as well just shoot a porn.
Pretty much, yeah. And have a lot of dead people too.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean,
folks,
yeah, the massacres.
It's a lot of sex and death.
Yeah.
So
which actually is what happened in real life. Well, that's actually what happened in real life, ancient Greece. A lot of sex and a lot of death. Yeah. That was ancient Greece.
As for Kratos, fake. There was no warrior named Kratos in Greek myth. That was just a creation to make a very cool game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey,
I will admit, that is a cool game.
Say what?
I said, I do admit that is a very good game series, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, I absolutely love the story. I mean, he got screwed. He got seriously screwed over. Kratos you ever hear Greek tragedy like Electra?
Yes.
Kratos was more of a tragedy than Electra.
Yeah. What's that tell you?
But he also brought it upon himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he was desperate, but then he was too bloodthirsty.
Yes. And well, very briefly, if you look at God of War, the first one, the very first one, you look at the story of that, Ares, the god of war, none of the Greek gods like him, but he himself starts to become way too, powerful. And so Kratos goes and kills him and becomes the god of war. Well, what happens in the very first thing in the second God of War game? What does Kratos do?
Kratos is being the god of war. He's defying Olympus. Yeah. And he decides to go into the fray.
Yeah.
And Athena and Zeus betray him.
Yeah.
But they're like, you've overstepped your authority.
Yeah. But isn't that exactly what Ares did too? If you think about it?
Ares never really overstepped his authority. He just grew greater than his power because war was so prevalent.
True.
He was too what's the way or what? He was too big for his own britches. Our war was allowed to propagate, and the gods were like, well, just let him take care of it, except that he wasn't taking care of it. He was feeding off of it.
Yeah.
And he was establishing himself to be greater. You can't stop him. Artemis, you go. Oh, shit. She just got knocked out. Athena, oh, shit. You just got knocked out. Sun, let's talk. Oh, crap. Now I'm knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically are like, if, how are we going to stop this asshole?
Pretty much.
Well, then Kratos becomes God of War, and they're like, yeah, we're going to strip your power slowly, but we're also going to trick you into giving it up, too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then the Titans and then he became a Titan, he was basically a Titan god. Yeah. Which, funny thing, ties into my, the term Titan god, actually, is something that I use in my own Greek myth story.
Yeah. Now, Kratos became more cruel than Ares, from what I remember.
He was more bloodthirsty because you got to understand, folks. This is a man that was promised by the gods to undo what he had done. They promised him that they would undo it. And then when he finally stopped Ares, when it was time for Olympus to fulfill their pledge, they're like, we can't do that. And so he tried screwing them over. He tried killing himself. And then they're like, that's cute. Pull him out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's like, you sad, sad man. I gotta say, one of the smallest actresses in the world plays one of the greatest characters in that game series.
Yeah, Gaia.
Yep.
What is her name?
Hunt.
Hunt. Oh, yeah.
Not Helen. The other one.
Yeah, I know exactly which one. She was in Kindergarten Cop. The principal.
Yeah, she was in Kindergarten Cop. She was in NCIS as Hetty.
Yeah.
God, she plays some of the best characters.
Yeah, she does. Her voice is very distinctive.
Yeah, she was one of the inspirations behind Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
Yep.
Hello, darling. Yes,
yeah.
I can do that voice, folks.
Well, it's actually done by a guy, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people don't realize that. It's actually the director.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, man, really? That was just so great. But anyway, Kratos became more crueler than Ares yes, he did become more cruel, but he was also more bloodthirsty, but that was because the gods kept on screwing him over.
Yeah. So essentially the gods brought it on themselves.
He erased Greek mythology.
Yeah. Well, okay, so yeah, he erased Greek mythology, but do you believe in the idea that it was true once he opened Pandora's box, the gods themselves became infected with the different terrible things? Or because my argument is they were already like that.
Yeah, they were already corrupt.
Yeah, they were already assholes. So I really didn't buy into the whole him opening Pandora's box is what caused them to become cruel, but because if I learned anything from Greek mythology ahead of time, they were already cruel. So,
how
that's just
cruel do you got to be to say, I will undo your pain and whatnot, but you got to go do something for me first. And when you do, you will be with your family again. Okay, I did what you said. Now give me back my family. We can't bring them back. You fuckers.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I got a snowmobile outside.
Oh, I don't hear it.
Really?
No, I don't hear it at all.
That is awesome. This thing works.
Yeah, I don't hear
I got a new webcam.
You.
Has noise cancellation and everything. Holy shit.
Yep.
Why don't you all ask Apollo Patriot? He's a Greek god who loves blue Twi'leks. Twi'leks. But yeah.
All right, so getting back into the actual Greek myths.
Yeah. Actual Greek myth, not freaking video game myth.
Yeah. So, all right. I wanted to talk about Hephaestus.
Still there?
Because that story is more comical than anything. Yeah, I hear you.
That poor bastard.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Hephaestus. All right, so Hera gives birth to Hephaestus. Well, he kind of looks off.
Weird.
Yeah. And so what does she do? She drops him from Mount Olympus.
She's like, gosh, you're fucking ugly.
Yeah. And so,
then she takes pity on him and takes her most beautiful daughter and say, marry that troll.
Yes.
And she's like,
so Hephaestus is actually married to Aphrodite. And Then Aphrodite doesn't care about him at all, so she gets with Ares.
Yeah.
So and then Hephaestus goes and plots a trap for them, and he catches them both naked, and he presents them to the gods, but the gods just laughed their ass off because they knew she was sleeping around on him, and so the joke was on Hephaestus, poor guy. And another time, he gets into a small argument with Zeus, and Zeus takes him and throws him again from Mount Olympus, where he fell for like 4 days. And then he became more lame. He became more disfigured. And then when he finally climbed back up, they made amends.
Yep.
I mean,
as pathetic of a story as Hephaestus is, he could have easily undone a lot of Olympus if he wanted to.
yeah, because he was the smith.
Not only that, his greatest forge was in Vesuvius.
Yes.
He used the fire from Typhon's heart
Yeah.
to power his weapons.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's like, motherfucking Olympians. And then he looks over and sees Typhon.
Oh, hey.
No, I'm not going to do it. I could, but no.
Well, I think he was more afraid if he failed, what would happen to him.
Oh, yeah. It'd be like, if Dad catches me,
yeah,
I'm fucked.
Well, okay, let's talk about the story of Prometheus. Look at what the punishment the gods do to other immortals. I mean, Prometheus gave fire.
Oh my gosh, the Titan that gave us fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that punishment
and allowed us to prosper.
Yep.
Lifetime of getting your innards ripped out by an eagle.
Yep. And since you can't die, you regrow it, and then every day it happens. I mean, I mean, talk about suffering. I mean, geez. I mean, the gods are cruel. I mean, they are just cruel bastards.
I've seen things, and what I have seen is nothing compared to what mortals can comprehend.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, what did you see? I've seen a man ripped open day after day by the same damn eagle. His guts. Its sole source of sustenance.
Yeah.
His screams, the only sound you will hear for miles. It's like, dude, that's pretty dark. It's Greek.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what? Oh my God, man, I'm going to slap you for being so stupid.
Yeah.
I had that conversation. That's a conversation I had.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody who actually went to college and actually took Greek mythology and stuff. And it's like, do you know the story of Prometheus? He's like, who's Prometheus? I'm like,
how do you not know that story?
that is like one of the most top freaking stories that's talked about in any Greek teaching.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you not know the story of Prometheus? He ditched that exact day. He ditched.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, how did you pass? If you do not know the story of Prometheus, I would flunk you.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I would, regardless of having perfect grades, I would flunk you.
Yeah, really.
And tell you never to come to my class again if you're going to ditch on the most important freaking story. How do you think humans got this far? Thank you, Prometheus. Tell the Titans didn't do anything to humans, and the gods are just dicks. Oh, Soul Assassin. If only I. You know what, Soul Assassin? Let me see this. Let me move this over here.
See, it depends, though. Some Titans were benevolent to humans.
Yes.
But the problem is under Kronos' rule, he was very cruel to everyone and anything. So it's kind of mix and match. It's almost like we were saying though. The reason why mankind worshipped the gods is because if the Titans ever got released again, they would have an even crueler punishment for man for abandoning them. So essentially, yeah, it's almost like, the gods aren't perfect, but we'll take what we can get.
Yep. Soul Assassin, I'm going to be sending you a DM on Twitter. It's a document that you should read. If I can find it. Where's my Google Docs? There we are. But yeah, dude, my overseer of Olympus, where he says, from what I could tell, the Titans didn't do anything to humans.
Hey, you're cutting in and out really bad.
And the gods are just dead.
Orange, cutting in and out.
Basically, something that is a.
All right, Soul Assassin, thanks. Joe, appreciate it. I see his internet's kind of weird. If he does like two things at once, it kind of screws it up. But he'll be back in a minute. So what I was saying is Hephaestus, that's always a fun story. It's hilarious to me, but I feel bad for the guy. Oh yeah. I actually saw that.
They have Greek vids with pictures too. Interesting. Soul Assassin, DM me on Twitter so I can find you quick. Or I'll just do it myself.
Hey, considering what was like. So you know the story of Laocoon, right?
Who?
Laocoon.
No.
Yeah, you'll like this one. I could have sworn I told you this. Well, anyway, so Laocoon was the ruler in Greece at the time of mythology here. So he was a very religious man. He always made sacrifices. He always prayed to the gods, but he started to become a religious zealot. He started to really become kind of like a cultist, to the point where he was actually sacrificing humans and eating them.
That's a big no-no.
Exactly. So Zeus, wanting to see if the rumors were true, disguised himself as a lowly beggar. He went to Laocoon's palace, and he introduced himself as just a traveler, a wanderer, and asked for food and shelter. Now, Laocoon and his brothers and the members of the court, they kind of looked at him real demeaning and, real kind of like, who are you? What, you're just some beggar, blah, 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 blah. Well, Laocoon decides, okay, let him in and we'll see what happens. Because Laocoon kind of had an idea he might be a god, but he kept it to himself. So he wanted to test that the person in front of them was a god. So he sacrificed the bull, cut it up, put it on the flames, But then what he did in secret is he killed a child, cut them up, and mixed it with the meat of the bull. Because he wanted to see if, the god would know the difference. Well, they did it. Mealtime came. Everyone started eating, but Zeus was completely disgusted by it and knew what he had done. So Lycon kept a close eye on this wanderer. Well, all of a sudden, the wanderer, who was Zeus, turned back into Zeus. He essentially vaporized the entire court when he became Zeus again. But Lycon has escaped. And he wanted to warn his people, the deathless gods, they're walking among us. Well, as he went to a house, knock on the door, and tell them this, all of a sudden, he couldn't do anything but growl. He had no words. All of a sudden, his nose turned into a snout. His eyes turned yellow, like gleaming like stars. Here, and his hands became like claws. He got fur. Zeus had turned him into a werewolf. And where do you think the word lichen comes from? You still there? I can't hear you. Gleaming like
Mm-hmm.
Oh, delay.
Larcon.
Yep, lichen. Yep. So, interesting story. So,
What was the name?
Yeah, pretty much lichens. Yeah, lycanthropy. Yeah. So it was actually a person. It was actually a Greek myth of a person named Lycon. Lichen. You know.
Better?
Yes, better. A lot better.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. You were talking and couldn't hear anything.
Yeah. So, what was his name again? Spell it out, basically.
Lycon.
Laicon. How do you spell it?
I'm not sure of the spelling. Hold on. I had my mythology book down here, and I think my wife moved it. I don't know where she put it. Yeah. Shit. Ugh. Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can look this.
Folks, this is why you don't ever put a freaking weak tablecloth over a heater. You get blue hand.
Oh. You hear me?
No, it's getting. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I mean L-Y, yeah. Lycaon.
Like Aeon. Yeah.
Yeah, Lycaon. Yeah.
Like a lichen.
Yep. But yeah, so that was a Greek myth. And it's kind of funny, the idea of a lichen is a lot older than what we think. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those idiots in Hollywood did not create a lichen, pal.
Yeah. But um, yeah, a lot of like then you get like stories of the Minotaur, of the Cyclops, of the, you know, all kinds of like really really interesting monsters and stuff came out of Greek mythology. I mean, these guys really were inventive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what now? There actually has been some, I guess you could say, archaeological evidence stating that many stories, like including like, uh, Troy, the Battle of Troy, which is the Iliad, were actually real life events that took place. But this would have been prior to what we consider classical Greece. This would have been, more of the my own civilization.
Mm-hmm.
But what other Greek gods do you like? Like, what all ones are you fascinated with?
Artemis is my favorite.
Ah, the hunt.
Moon and the hunt.
Yep. Hmm.
Believe me, the story that I have that I created that you know of, Overseer of Olympus, she is very prominent in it.
Right.
And yeah, I actually delved very deep into Greek mythology to come up with some of the stuff I have in it.
Right.
Like there is a mention of the oath break, or basically their version of karma.
Right.
And what happens when a god breaks their oath. Let's just put it this way. Karma hits you, or karma is in Greek mythology, is a literal being. It's not called karma. Right. It's by a different name. And it's also a name that they will fear to speak for fear of bringing attention to them. Now, a lot of people, or you also hear about the fates and whatnot.
Right.
And the three fates, those who are the one who casts, the one who weaves, and the one who cuts.
Right.
But there is three beings plus the other, or plus that karma or their version of karma. But there is also three beings that all beings under Kronos fear. And a lot of people think that is bullshit, but believe it or not, the Furies.
Oh, yeah.
Gods and Titans fear them. Because when Kronos created the Furies, he created them to be his judgment.
Yep.
To be the ultimate judge. And it's like, if you step out of line in any way that is too heinous for even you, my God, these idiots need to put mufflers on their damn vehicles.
I don't hear anything.
I know. I love it. I love that you guys no longer hear it. But, oh my gosh, I have to still hear it. I wish I could cancel it. But anyway, Troy probably happened before the Greek Dark Ages. Yes, did. But yeah, the Furies, I'm also fascinated with, because even the mere mention of them, I actually have a MacGuffin, so to speak, in my story called The Judgment of the Furies. It's a disc. And it's literally like the size of a freaking plate.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you broke your oath. You know what this is? And that you would hold it up, and it's like, and even Zeus is like, you really don't need to go that far. I mean, what oath did I break? You killed the freaking spouse of a god or titan. This is my story, folks. I'm just giving you a brief taste of it. And Zeus honestly has no idea what Kronos, his grandfather, is talking about, because this story that I wrote is called Overseer of Olympus. And if you guys anybody who wants to read it or read what is so far written of it, DM me on Twitter at Orange Hat Reviews, just without the A in orange because of character restriction. Or just look me up. But anyway, I will send you the document so you guys can read. This is the first chapter is called Broken Oath. This was meant to be a multiple or like a 5-book series. And believe me, the fights get brutal in it. I mean, have you, G-Fan, have you ever seen They Live?
Oh, yeah.
You know the alley fight?
Yeah.
Well, I take the alley fight and put it in my book and times it by a couple hundred. I mean, Apollo kicks the crap out of the main character. He throws him through, or he just beats his ass through a damn store. And then he puts his head right into a friggin' car window, pulls his head out, puts it through another car window, pulls it out, and is like, yeah, you're done now, pal. But that's not even the bloodiest fight in the book. The bloodiest fight came when the character fought Ares, the god of war. And it's like, oh, damn. Now, the kid in my story, well, I call him a kid. He's like 19 in the book.
Right.
He's powerful. This kid has all the powers of gods and titans. All of them. He just hasn't unlocked them all. It's video game cliche, I know.
Wow.
He goes up against Ares, and to be completely honest, I have inspirations from anime I watched,
right,
like the original Dragon Ball Z Broly movie and Yu Yu Hakusho, where he is beating the hell out of Ares, and Ares is like, just take it. And he's like, oh. And then when he notices that Ares is not reacting, that's when Ares comes out and is like, my turn. He's putting him face first through trees as wide as this room that I am in. He's breaking his body through rocks, and he busts. He nearly kills him, but it's the fates that step in. He's ready to kill him because after he beats the ever-loving shit out of him, he's like, "You're fun, kid, yeah, but playtime's over." Brings up his sword, and just before you can bring it down, the fates are not killing him. Well, Ares also kind of invaded their temple, looking for Ornos. And when you break down the house, or break down the door of the three of like the 10 most powerful beings in Greek mythology, they tend to not like that. So yeah,
right.
It's like, honestly, you went after the fates. You actually thought that was going to do something. You're cute.
Jeez.
They kicked it, or they confined him to Olympus for like a week. Then it's like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. You will not be able to leave Olympus by our decree. If you try overriding the fates, the Furies will come after you. Because the Furies and the fates, believe it or not, are related.
Yeah.
Because they're of the threes. The three, or the Stygian witches, the fates, the Furies. They're all cousins of a sort. Because they are of the threes. You will see a lot of stuff, not just in my story, but in Greek mythology alone. Like this Tale of Arachne, I take a lot of the stuff I take a lot of original Greek myth, basically my Greek myth is basically this is what you know, this is what you've been told, but because real life is often embellished, this is what you're told, this is the truth. Now, I change a lot of it. To be completely honest, I changed the story of Arachne. Everybody knows who Arachne is. She is the mother of spiders, because she challenged Athena to a weaving contest. And Athena is like, yeah, okay, I'll take you on. And when you lose, which you will, I will curse you. And she does. My story on Arachne, she was actually one of the most devoted servants to Athena. She weaved a shroud, a shroud that, or like a flag, so to speak,
Right.
for Athena, because she knew that Athena was coming to one of her temples. And she presented it without flaw before Athena. Athena, instead of being gracious, did not like the fact that a perfect tapestry was made by a mortal. And that is what led to the curse in my story.
Right.
They do not like that mortals can create perfections when it's supposed to be the gods who are perfect.
Right.
And it's not, this story is by no stretch meant for any child. This is 17 and up. This story has graphic violence. It has sex. It has a story behind it. It's not just sex and violence. There's a story there. And I use people who are friends of mine. They also have characters in this book. Unfortunately, they die, but yeah, have you also ever heard of the Timician fox?
Remind me of that one, because there's a couple boxes.
It's the uncatchable prey.
Oh, okay, all right.
Artemis has tried to catch it, no luck. Everyone has tried to catch it, no luck. This thing is you ever hear the term sly as a fox?
Yes.
Where do you think it came from?
Yeah.
The Timician fox, or Tumician fox, however you choose to pronounce it, is the uncatchable prey. It is literally, you think you can corner it, it will get out of that corner. You can put a million or a billion jillion spikes on the floor surrounding this thing. You take your eyes off it, it's gone. This thing will escape no matter what the circumstances.
All right.
Now, basically, I decided I am going to employ this into my story later on, like the end book, the Timician fox. It is mentioned in this book to set it up, but at the end, if I ever do get around to writing it, because I got major writer's block, folks.
We all do. Trust me, we all get that.
Yeah, the end, basically, the main character, I call him Dicastus, which is actually Greek for justice.
Right.
Him and Artemis have a child in the first book. And this is a very major thing because Artemis is a maiden goddess. She's not supposed to have sex or children.
Right.
Hence why the book is called Broken Oaths. Well, their child literally catches the Timician fox. That is spoiler alert. She'll catch it.
Right.
And I actually had one proofreader come to me and was like, why'd you make her female? What is this, female empowerment? It's like, actually, no. I chose to make her female because I always wanted a daughter.
Right.
Has nothing to do with any woke bullshit.
Right.
I
Yeah.
honestly have none of that in this book.
Yeah. There's a big difference between something being woke and having an actual good character.
Yeah. And my character, or in her character, her name's Jade Elysia, like Elysium.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I figured that one.
But her name is Jade after her grandmother. And this child basically is the child of a Titan god and a goddess.
Right.
So it's like she's going to be powerful.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also her innocence that leads to the capture of the Temesian fox. Because that's the one thing that Temesian fox is attracted to. Innocence. That's why Artemis has always had close calls but never was able to catch it, because in a way she was innocent. She had virginal innocence.
Right.
But after that she would never be able to catch it after she had lain with the Castus.
Right.
Now, if you catch the Temesian fox, this is my own spin, you get a wish. No matter what the wish is, you get it. This girl wishes for one thing. Because of Artemis breaking her oath, she is mortal. She slowly becomes mortal.
Right.
As the books go on, she loses her abilities. She loses her power. She loses her divinity. Her mother's divinity to be restored. It's a selfless wish. Yes. It's a selfless wish to show that the child is still just that, an innocent child. Yes, she will be like 5 years old because time, or in children of gods and whatnot, they age differently. Sadly, a little bit of inspiration from Twilight. But this child is basically going to be like 5 years old by the time the books end, and only like 2 or 3 years will have passed.
Right.
I mean, the Castus is going to be fighting not just gods, he's going to fight Typhon. Right. Zeus will release Typhon out of desperation. Zeus wants this kid
must
dead.
Be really desperate.
Oh yeah, he's like, I didn't want to do this, but how am I going to stop him? He is too powerful. Because in the second book, Castus actually nearly kills Zeus. Right. In the second book, he has Zeus dead to rights. But guess what happens? The second book is called Fate's Intervention. As Ares was stopped from killing the Castus is stopped from killing Zeus. Right. Because Zeus literally, in this book, he'll actually kidnap his grandchild. And Arachne actually befriends the child. She'll be like a 2-year-old. She's a young child, yes, but she's very much aware. And she befriends Arachne. Right. And Arachne befriends the child. Right. And it's Athena that steals the child. So Arachne, really hating Athena, decides to go to Olympus with the Castus and a rescue team, so to speak. And she actually attacks Athena. And the Castus grabs his daughter, and Athena's there. She's like, you honestly think you're going to beat me? If you couldn't beat my brother Ares, you're not going to beat me. And he's like, what about her? She looks up and she sees Arachne, and Arachne just goes off. Arachne, do you know what Nagas are?
Yeah, half snake.
Think of, all right, actually a better idea. Are you seen Clone Wars?
No.
Maul, or Darth Maul as a spider?
Oh, that kind. Okay. Geesh.
Yeah. She has the body of a spider, but her upper body is for the most part, human, but also disfigured because of her or because of the curse.
Right. Yeah, that's like a kind of like a thing in anime too.
Yeah. And because she was touched by a goddess, because that is how curses are placed in my interpretation. The
Right.
gods literally touch you.
Yeah.
They infuse you with their power, and when it comes to mortals, it can either be an enhancement or it can be a detriment.
Right.
For Arachne, sadly, it was a detriment.
Right.
It's not by design, it's completely random.
Right.
You could be the most purest person in the world. Or if you're touched by a god or goddess, you could literally become the opposite of what you were.
Right.
You could be the most horrible person in the world. You could be touched by a goddess and you might just be even worse.
Right.
You could be enhanced by them. It all depends. That is how they curse mortals. They literally put like 0.00001% of divinity in them.
Right.
And it's like, well, let's see how this is going to work. So yeah, they have that fight. I have Ocean. I'm bringing in major players in the first book to establish this or to get this book launched, basically.
Right.
I got Gaia. I got all the major gods and goddesses. I got freaking Oceanus, Atlas, Kronos.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be mistaken with, or that's one thing a lot of people don't realize about Greek mythology. There are two gods or titans whose names are so close together, or pronunciation wise, Kronos and Kronos.
Yeah.
Kronos is the titan that was the progenitor of the big three.
Right.
Kronos is the titan of time.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just mix them or whatever? It's like, no, not doing
They're
that.
completely different gods.
Yes.
I should say.
Even Hades in my book, Hades was not the original ruler of the underworld. The Titan of Death. No, the Titan of Death was.
Oh.
And he actually comes into play because Hades will tempt Decastus. If you talk, or you can see your mother, but if you talk to her, you join her. And Decastus was going to accept this, and he was fully going to talk with her, but the Titan of Death literally comes in and he's like, you are going to be tempted by Hades. He will give you his temptation. He will allow you to see your mother. But your life literally depends on what you do. You can talk with her, but you will join her if you do. You can listen to her and stay, but do not speak to her. It sort of follows the old rule of the dead cannot speak with the living.
Right.
But vice versa. The living cannot speak with the dead.
Right.
Which is actually more ancient Egyptian, but
yeah, but still the concept's there.
Yes, the concept is similar. I mean, I did a fair dinkum of research for this.
Well, that's like
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, when I did all the research, it's like, and I had my first draft written out, and it was beautiful. A virus killed my freaking laptop.
Oh.
And I'm like, and I didn't have it saved on anything else. I didn't have a thumb drive yet. And I'm like, no. I mean, I had 95 pages of a first draft ready to read. Now I have 87 pages, not even complete, because I'm also fleshing out as I'm writing as well.
Yeah.
And constantly editing.
Yeah, that's like, believe it or not, I've been thinking about doing a story, mainly because I still don't have a job right now, and lots of time to think. I've been drafting a story based on what Mike Daughtry was wanted to do at one point. He's the director for Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Oh,
And
Doherty.
that's
Okay.
yeah, Dory. And what he in the one Twitter and in a couple of interviews, he actually stated that he always wanted to do a BC Godzilla movie where, mind you, these were like the first in this version of his story, they were the first gods and stuff like that. And
Why do you think
so
they call them Titans?
yeah, well, exactly. And he wanted to do a story where it takes place in BC times where they first started really appearing. And I was actually kind of inspired by that. And I actually am doing research and drafting a story where it's this research into like finding out that many of the Titans that we see in Greek mythology and ancient Egyptian and then Asian mythology and stuff like that, how they're actually all the Godzilla monster, the monster from the Godzilla universe. And it's like different civilizations have different names for them, so they're all connected. They are the same creatures, they're just under different names. And what I'm always surprised about when I'm doing this research is how many cultures, even though they're thousands and thousands of miles apart, they have very similar legends and very similar stories about morality and about these epic stories about these heroes going up against insurmountable odds and monsters and that sort of thing. They might be different monsters or different creatures, but they all tell the same story. So my argument with the draft that I'm writing is that in the context of the Godzilla universe, these Titans or the monster from the Godzilla universe were pretty much the ones like that you read about in like Greek mythology, from ancient Egyptian, from ancient Babylonian, that kind of thing. These were all one and the same. So I always thought that would be like a cool concept, kind of giving a bit of a twist to it. How the Bible talks about the Leviathan. It sounds, when it describes the Leviathan, it sounds like Godzilla, essentially. It breathes fire. It's coming up from the depths. No spear can pierce its scales. That kind of thing. It's kind of it's kind of interesting if you really think about it. But many civilizations have these myths. That's what's kind of interesting.
A funny thing about this, Dangerville. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
The channel Dangerville on YouTube.
Yeah.
They recently reviewed or did a video of could Godzilla have existed in real life or his real life inspiration?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I've seen that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. But
because
I mean,
yeah.
Oh yeah, when I first started I've been a Godzilla fan all my life. So when I first started, reading about Greek mythology and stuff like that, it's like, this sounds like, these giant monsters were like, these Titans even were like, not just, some of them were elemental, but some of them were, monster-like. So it's kind of interesting. It's almost like the idea of giant monsters is like universal, if you think about it. It's a very universal concept. Same thing with dragons. There are stories of dragons from throughout history from different civilizations that had nothing to do with each other. And so it's kind of funny how, for as far apart as cultures develop in different ways, they almost have a common ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, every myth or every older culture has a dragon myth.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, the Koreans have the Imugis, the Chinese have their dragons, The the British have dragons and wyverns,
Right.
which are different, folks. Even the Greek, I believe, had a dragon-like creature.
Yes. Aztecs had the Quetzalcoatl, which is the plumed serpent that could fly. So, it was a feathered dragon, essentially. Yeah, so these concepts are kind of universal, but what I was always fascinated by was how similar stories are. Okay, so let's real quick recap something. So you, of course, have heard the concept of the hero's journey, right?
Obviously, yeah.
All right, most Star Wars fans do. And like I said, I might not be the biggest Star Wars fan, but what's so great about the original trilogy is that is probably the textbook of
Hero's journey.
A textbook, quite literally. Yeah. So you have Luke Skywalker. He starts out just this average farm boy. Nothing's going on in his life. By fate, he finds these droids. He wants to get them back to their owner, which Obi-Wan Kenobi. He meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here's this veteran. Well, then he has a catalyst that happens. It's his aunt and uncle die. They're murdered. So now he's all alone, but he has Obi-Wan to train him. So he goes on this adventure. He gets training. His mentor dies. He then assumes the mantle of the hero. And he has some success. Get to, the next episode, he goes, fights the main villain, but loses. He loses because he's not fully trained yet. So what happens? You have to go back, retrain yourself, and then he goes, fights again, and he actually ends up being victorious. Not only being victorious, but he is able to instill redemption in his father. And then it ends with a grand celebration. Evil has been defeated, and there you go. That is a textbook hero's journey, quite literally textbook. What I think, and this is why I know this is why so many. Okay, so and then have you ever heard the story of Oedipus Rex?
I might have.
Okay, so let me. That's a Greek story. Okay, Oedipus Rex. Yeah, Oedipus. Yeah. That's where. Okay, so king and queen go. They take their baby to an oracle. The oracle states that this baby will eventually kill his father and marry his mother. Well, they don't want this to happen. So they leave the baby in the woods, and then a shepherd comes along. He has sympathy for the baby, takes the baby, and gives it to a neighboring king and queen who have no children, weren't able to have children. So he grows up, becomes a young man, and he goes to the oracle to find out his destiny. Well, the oracle tells him the same thing. Hey, you're going to kill your father and marry your mother. Well, he doesn't want to do that. But they never told him he was adopted, so he exiles himself quietly. While he's on the road, something happens, and it leads to the death of this carriage and the people in it. And he caused it. So he goes to the city, and there's a issue that's going on in the city. They say that some bad things will besiege them. So he goes to this cave, and he sees a sphinx. The sphinx asks him a riddle and says, if you can answer the riddle right, you will inherit this kingdom. Well, he answers the riddle right. Well, the sphinx grants him that. And then he goes, and as what was foretold, he inherits the kingdom and marries the queen. Well, a couple years later, throughout his reign, a plague, erupts in the kingdom that he's now in charge of. And one of the fates comes and says, the reason why this is happening is you need to find the murderer of the former king. All right, so he goes on a search, searching through records, searching for everything. Well, eventually, he finds out that it was that carriage that he caused the deaths of had the king in it.
Oh shit! So
Well,
he
then,
killed the king.
yeah. And what did he do? He married his mom. So he then finds this out and realizes he was adopted. And the queen finds out too. She hangs herself, and then he gouges out his own eyes as punishment. That is the story of Oedipus Rex. But what the story really talks about is the idea of self-fulfilling destiny. In other words,
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, exactly.
You try to avoid it, you end up committing, or you end up fulfilling it.
And what do you think Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3 are?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, well, especially in the third one, what does Anakin see? He sees Padme dying in childbirth. So what's he do? He tries to do everything he can to prevent it. Well, what's he end up doing at the end? Causing it to happen.
Yep.
So right there, he George Lucas is very inventive. He did right there like a literal Oedipus Rex kind of another Greek story, a tragedy.
He actually from a lot of stories. Faust, Oedipus, many.
Yeah. Yes. So the idea of a Greek tragedy is the story of Anakin, but again, he also has a redemption story through his son. And I think that's why I think that's why the sequel trilogy is so frowned upon, because there is nothing in that trilogy that even remotely makes sense.
The hero's journey.
Not just that, but makes sense. I like I said, I'm not even that big of a Star Wars fan. Okay, and when I saw the Last Jedi, I literally scratched my head after it was over because I didn't know what I just saw. Quite literally, because it had nothing. They had this huge buildup with Luke and yada yada yada, and then flat. It's like goes flat, goes nowhere. Like you could have taken Luke out of that whole movie, and it wouldn't have mattered because it just literally had nothing to do with any of that. But that all aside, when you look at the ancient Greeks and ancient Greek stories, mythology, about the heroes, again, many of the heroes, it's that tired and true formula of that hero's journey. But also, the Greeks add to that. They actually go beyond the celebratory thing, and then they go into the tragedy part. And a lot of the heroes end up developing hubris or ete, and it ends up bad for them.
Yeah.
I guess you could say the ancient Greeks kind of had a very good grasp about human nature. Look at certain celebrities. I'm not going to name any, but look at certain celebrities. They start out, fresh, young, have all ambitions, vibrant, have all these ambitions. They do these great things. They, work in charity, yada, 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 and they become famous. But then that fame starts to go to their head. What starts to happen? That downfall.
Yep.
That fall from grace. The fall from grace is what essentially is the essential of the Greek tragedy. That fall from grace, grace of the gods. Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So
hold on 1 second.
Yeah, sure. That's a good one. What about the story of a whore's son throwing rocks at a crowd? No, man. Say, escaped son, you might hit your father.
Yeah, I laughed at that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good one.
Holy shit, it's almost 11 o'clock.
Yeah. We've been talking a good bit. Like I said, this is a multi-part series because there's so much to talk about when it comes to mythology and ancient Greece. It's you can't really fit it in just like 1 or 2 sessions. It's like an ongoing kind of thing. But yeah, we're probably going to be wrapping it up here because yeah,
Exactly.
I have to. But yeah, see, like when we get talking about like Greek mythology and stuff that we like, I mean, it can go on, and then all of a sudden we see, oh crap, we've been on for 2 hours. One time I was on for like 3.5 hours one time, and I'm like, oh my god, what happened?
I know, right?
Yeah. But all right, guys, we're going to be wrapping it up. Hey, why don't you guys? Well, Soul Assassin is here now, but if anybody catches this video, can you please give Orange Hat some love there, and subscribe to his channel, watch his videos in their entirety. That way he can get some more watch hours. I'd appreciate it because he's a great guy.
Nice.
Yeah, you are. Like I said, guys, I don't really do this for any monetary or trying to be a big YouTuber. I do this because I like talking to people. And unfortunately, where I live, I don't know very many people that are into Greek mythology and stuff, or Godzilla and stuff like that. So I'm kind of by myself here. So anyway, this has been GFan84 and Orange Hat Reviews. And we appreciate you watching, and I hope you learned something, and we will be around another time. I'll probably do another part 3 at some point, maybe next week or so. All right? So you guys have a nice night, and take care.
Stay humble, folks.